Peace, love, and empowerment, beautiful people. I pray that this video finds you well and that you are out here achieving goals, getting the job done. LJ the Peacemaker here. Need peace? I got some, and I'm willing to share. So today, I really want to talk to you about grace and momentum. You probably have not heard those two things put together, but I really want to demonstrate the connection and how we need to be able to connect them with one another because one requires the other. So just this morning, I got up, I'm doing my thing, and I was doing my preparations to begin this video. So, I get ready, I get myself prepared, and then I plot out what I want to talk about and really just I have this whole procedure. And so this morning, just before beginning to do that, I felt like this sense of like dread or like dragging. Like I just didn't have it in me to get any of this done. And like I just really didn't feel like it. And I'm like, what is that? What's going on? Why does this feel like such a huge ordeal when I love speaking to the people? Like this is my passion, it's my purpose, and this is the fulfillment of why I was born, to speak to people, to share this message, to articulate these life experiences that we probably are going through and not sure what's happening, so that's really the goal and the objective. But so I felt so overwhelmed and like I wasn't sure what was going on, so I really had to like stop for a second and assess myself and give myself some grace, because at another point in life I would have just kept going. I would have been like, shake it off, knock it off, you doing your video, you got to stay on schedule, got to stay on task, this doesn't fit into the equation. And so this morning I really had to stop and give myself grace. And so I came outside. I was like, you need a minute. I came outside, sat on my deck, drank a cup of tea, and really just let myself be still, let myself process my feelings. And, I recognized that like the part that was stressing me is because I've established this whole system, this whole process around making these videos because it's my work and my life's purpose. So it's like, it's very, very important. However, I'm overwhelming myself. I'm the one who's created these practices, and they're what are overwhelming me in this moment. I mean, the previous days and the last videos I prepared, I didn't feel like that. But on this particular day, I was feeling like that. And so I had to give myself the grace to sit down. And as I'm sitting out on the deck and drinking my cup of tea, I really felt like this is the life. Like I'm so blessed. And it helped to separate me from that feeling of overwhelm and the feelings of dread. And so, then I began to just really have this dialogue with God, because I'm constantly talking to God and really just seeking guidance, because there's so much going on behind the scenes that we're not privy to, especially when we start getting caught up in our feelings. And so my feelings in the moment were attempting to overtake me, and gracefully and gratefully, I knew that I needed to stop and do something different. And so I gave myself that grace. And as I'm sitting here out on the deck, it helped me to return to this feeling of gratitude and this sense of peace, because I'm like, the sun is shining on me. I have this beautiful deck. Nature is all around me. And then it really helped me to get into this higher vibration and begin to assess what is the problem. So the first thing that came to mind was that today is my stepfather's birthday, which my stepfather passed away many years ago due to mysterious circumstances. And as I thought that, then it was like, oh snap, there's mad mysterious deaths in my family. Like that's really real, and so I had to accept that that's a factor, whether I was aware of it in the prior moment or not. it's a factor. So that could definitely be playing a role in how I'm feeling. And then I had to assess, like, okay, so am I going to stick to my schedule and do my video, or am I not? And it was like, from this higher vibration of gratitude and me just giving myself time, I was like, oh, okay, I'm absolutely going to shoot my video because this is the schedule and I'm going to keep the schedule. That's a commitment I've made to myself. And I had to assess, how am I going to, what am I going to do to tweak it so that I feel good? Like, not feeling dreadful towards it or feeling like it's stressing me or straining me in some way. And, you know, I decided that, okay, the part that is getting me a little bit annoyed at the moment is all the process and the procedures. And so, like, I know I've shared in a previous video that, like, I'm very free-spirited. I am very procedural and strategic as well. And I consistently have to remind myself of both, because I could go too far with each one. And so this morning I was able to assess, like, okay, you're going too hard with the procedure and the strategy right now. You need to ease up. So what you're going to do, which this is all a dialogue I'm having with God, with the Holy Spirit speaking to me and really guiding me. But so what the Holy Spirit told me was, what you're going to do is you're going to just shoot your video just like this right now. You're not going to make no preparation. You already knew your topic. You selected that yesterday, and you're just going to speak. And that's it, in your nightgown. In your nightgown, no earrings on, no preparation. You're going to come forth with the utmost sincerity, utmost authenticity, which is ultimately all that I desire. So it was like, that actually got me a little bit excited. I was like, oh, okay, really? But then as I started setting up my camera and stuff to do it, then it was like, oh, am I going to look weird? What are people going to think? This, that. And then I gave myself grace to separate from that as well. And so this is why grace is so important, because, you know, one of the definitions of grace is unmerited favor from God. So obviously, with regards to God, it's saying that this is unmerited, meaning we don't deserve it. But so then how is grace applied from ourselves to ourselves? Because from ourselves, we do deserve it. If you don't deserve it, then how can you deem that anyone else deserves anything if you don't believe that you deserve to give yourself grace? And if you're not able to give yourself grace, then how can you give anyone else grace? So one of the other definitions of grace is refined movement. You know, so someone moves gracefully. But I really like that one, refined movement, because it demonstrates how, like, we need to tweak some stuff. We need to refine a little bit what we're doing. So you may be experiencing a particular feeling and it don't feel too good, you know, and maybe you have a schedule. Maybe you were just like me, sticking to an agenda, sticking to routines, patterns, plans, systems, processes, and it just wasn't feeling right. You felt drained and you had to stop, assess, and refine your movement. You know, additionally, think about a grace period. Now, a grace period is an allotted amount of time that you're given to pay for something or to comply with a particular standard, procedure, or something that's set in place. And that too is all part of it, giving ourselves the time. So this grace period encompasses this time factor. We need to give ourselves a moment. You know what I mean? And part of me felt like, oh, I don't got time for that. I'm going to go sit on the deck and drink some tea. Who's got time for that? And it was like, you got time for that, because either you feel well or you don't. Like, which one are you going to continue to go in and to foster momentum with? So that leads us into momentum. Now, we've already talked about how grace is necessary, but it's critical that we understand this momentum component. So what is momentum? I mean, in physics, the definition of momentum is a mass in motion. And so if we think of a mass, it's a thing, something tangible, or it could be intangible. A mass is just like a big piece of something. For our purposes, we're gonna go with that. A mass is a big piece of something. And so, like, our thoughts are things, our feelings are things, our experiences, those are things. And like, as we continue in a particular direction with them, they are creating this momentum. You know what I mean? So they're moving in a certain direction. And as we add to these particular actions and continue to practice them and make them habitual, they become a larger mass. And they begin to pick up speed and increase in velocity and create all sorts of scales of momentum, larger and larger momentum. So let's use a simple example to like make this real plain. So say I love the example of working out because that's always so easy, and I feel like we always gonna understand that. But okay, so say I want to start working out. Okay, so first I had the idea that was beginning to set some momentum into motion, and then I plan tomorrow I'm gonna go to the gym. So now that's creating more momentum in that direction. Then I get up tomorrow and I go to the gym. Now I'm creating more momentum. And then as I continue to daily go to the gym, it's creating more and more momentum. But then as I've been doing this for several weeks now I'm getting stronger and I'm able to increase what I'm doing while I'm at the gym, and that's causing it to pick up velocity. So it's increasing the rate and the speed at which the momentum is moving. And so the progress begins to become more evident at a faster rate. And so that's what momentum is all about, and so our habits, our practices, the things that we do are creating momentum. But it is critical that we understand that like momentum is already at play. There's a collective momentum, a global momentum. I mean, if you look at the environment, for example, look at what's going on. There's a momentum of like not wellness in our environment, in nature. You can see based on like these forest fires, the storms, the heat, the droughts, all these factors, there's momentum created in this direction of this disorder. Global warming, we're calling it, but it's really this sickness that is spreading. And the momentum is created in that direction, and that's why it's ever so evident and becoming more and more evident every day. But so personally, in our lives, we are, yes, in the moment creating momentum, but there is so much momentum already in play. Now, for myself this morning, what made it so necessary and so critical that I gave myself this grace was that I be dragging it. Like that was my old pattern. You know what I mean? In other words, I'm overthinking, giving too much energy to stuff that is like, move on already, and like putting too much pressure on myself. So I previously had set into motion this pattern of where I always put too much on myself. I felt like I had to carry the weight of the world on my shoulders or the world was going to collapse. And so I would do whatever I had to do to ensure that I was holding up whatever I thought was necessary. And so I've been practicing that for a large portion of my life. So let's say I've been doing that for 25 years. How much momentum has been created in that direction? And so even though for the last almost 3 years, I've changed my pattern and I'm changing the way that I approach things, I cannot be naive enough to think that that momentum that I created in 25 years does not still exist and that I'm not susceptible to get swept up in it real easy. You know what I mean? And so even for me with systems, processes, I put systems and processes in place, and I've been doing that for a very, very long time. And then I beat myself up when I'm not meeting my standard that I'm setting myself. I'm the one setting the standard. Nobody else even knows about what the standard is. But I'm over here beating myself up because I'm not meeting these standards that I've created. Now, that was another old pattern of mine. And so I'm therefore susceptible to it because so much momentum was created in that direction. Again, at least a good 25 years that I've been doing those things repetitively. And granted, that's not how I behave now, but understanding that that momentum is created. That momentum exists. And therefore, I'm not able to fight against that momentum. That momentum will mow me down if I stay right there standing in it. And that is why grace is critical. Because as we begin to change our direction, to change course, to set into motion this new momentum, these new patterns of behavior, we're creating new momentum, but that by no means cancels out the old momentum. And so the old momentum is going to attempt to sweep us into it. And when we begin to feel those feelings, it's up to us to give ourselves grace and allow ourselves to refine our movement, to stop, to start doing something different, which ultimately is stepping out of that momentum. Because we can't fight against it. The momentum is too strong and it will sweep you up. So what we have to do is step out of the momentum. And that's what grace allows us to do. It allows us to step out of the momentum, refine our movement. Let me do something different right at this moment, because what I'm doing right now has my whole mind overwhelmed. Even though maybe I'm just washing the dishes, but I'm thinking of all this other stuff and it's overwhelming me. So I need to step out of this and refine what I'm doing in this moment, which is giving yourself that grace, giving yourself that grace period, recognizing the time factor necessary in grace. So give yourself a moment to return to the new momentum and to feed that new momentum. So with myself, like I said, I'm having all these thoughts of dread, of overwhelm, and feeling like I don't want to do something that I absolutely love to do. So I gave myself the time. I refined my movement by stepping outside and doing something different, giving myself enough time to do this, a good 10-15 minutes, and allowing myself to return to the current momentum that I'm creating and that I want to be in, which was this place of peace and gratitude. And then from that place, I was able to assess the situation more efficiently, because I'm not assessing it or trying to figure it out from these negative thoughts or from this dark place. Now I've brought myself back to a light place, a place of feeling at ease. And that is where solutions dwell. And so then I'm able to come up with what I should do next, how I should proceed. Not to not accomplish, feels like something's on my back. Not to not accomplish the goal that I've intended, not to not follow through with my clear objective, but to follow through with it in a manner that is going to continue to create the momentum that I desire. So what I desire is to speak to you, to share this message, to share these words of encouragement, this skill set, this mindset with you, but I desire to do it from a happy, peaceful place, not come on here where I'm feeling like, oh man, I don't want to be here, this got me so stressed out. That's never it, and so as we give ourselves grace, it allows us to, again, assess what is going on, how we really feeling, look at some of the factors that are causing it, which are that momentum. Typically there's so much momentum at play with our previous habits, our previous patterns, previous experiences, that those are typically what is trying to sweep us back into them. And as we begin to change, we have to understand how this momentum works, or else we start beating ourselves up thinking we're doing something wrong or something's not right with us because we're feeling this way. And it's like, no, it's not about that. That's that old momentum creeping up, and you're setting into motion new momentum. So gracefully allow yourself the room, the time, the space to come back into this new momentum. And again, we don't fight against the old momentum. We won't win that battle. It's for us to step out of it. You just step right out of it into the new momentum that you've been creating, which means stop what you're doing and go do something different that you would enjoy. And again, it doesn't have to be nothing major. Like I said, for myself, it was, you're going to go drink a cup of tea on the deck. Why? Because I know I love that. I know I love that. I be coming out here on this deck and I'm like, yo, I'm so blessed. There is no denying how blessed I am when I'm on this deck. That's just how it makes me feel. And I know that that's why God gave me this deck, so that I could always have it to come out here to experience that feeling of gratitude and peace and serenity and love and just appreciation for all the good things in life. because it's necessary. And I mean, I've created momentum to foster those feelings, and I believe that that's why this has manifested. That's why God has bestowed this glorious thing upon me, because I've been feeding that momentum to practice this. And so God is like, oh, you've been practicing now with nothing. Now more momentum will be created, because now watch how you get to practice it with something on this glorious day. And so I encourage you, recognize that nothing is wrong with you. There's all this old momentum that's trying to sweep you in it. Ain't nothing wrong with that. But it's for you to be privy, be alert, be aware, and know that you have the capacity to step outside of it and to foster the momentum of what you desire to create in your life. And recognize that, like, you're the one creating this momentum. So other people, they might still be on that old momentum. And it's not for you, again, to fight against them, because we're not going to win that. They're looking at like, you always been doing it like this. So you trying to act brand new? And it's like, yeah, exactly. I want a new thing. I got to do a new thing. And that's how this works. So recognize that there is so much momentum at play. But with each new step you take, each new habit, each new pattern that you set into motion, you're creating new momentum. But we have to be able to recognize when the old momentum is trying to sweep us in, and we got to give ourselves grace, give ourselves the room, the space, the love, the care, the compassion to step outside of it, refine our movements, and give us ourselves the time to really just get back to the momentum of what we desire. So you go out there, you create that momentum, you give yourself all the grace that you need, because if you ain't going to give it to yourself, then where's it coming from? You know what I mean? God made it available. God already gave us grace. And so it's for us to utilize it, to access it, and to know that it is for us. So I desire to see you win and go out there and live powerfully. You got this. You are a winner. You're beautiful. You're wonderful. God loves you, and I love you too. And remember, if you have a bucket and you put a drop in it every day, then your bucket will inevitably overflow. So as long as you're putting that drop in every day, then your overflow is guaranteed. You got this. Go get it. LJ the Peacemaker here, eradicating poverty one thought at a time. I thank you for your time. I love you, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace.